Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. Happy Monday. We've got a lot of positive topics on today's show to talk about. So I'm excited about that. I'm Trevor Lane, joined by Keith Smith. Keith, it was a great sports weekend. Obviously, March Madness. We had some NBA games going on. We've got baseball officially, really fully. I know they had the weird kind of Dodgers and Cubs and all that, but baseball fully kicking off this week. An exciting time of year in the sports calendar.
Yeah, pretty soon we're gonna have sports all day, which is the best, right? That's what we want. So yeah, baseball opening day coming up Thursday. That's always it's still a very special day for me. Even as I still love baseball, but not the way I once did. But it's still a really cool day on the calendar. Yeah, tournament. We're now into the Sweet 16. We're gonna give an update on our bracket challenge a little bit later in the show before we wrap up. So we'll get into that. There's we got a race going on. Yeah. Through the top 16. Did you see, speaking of March Madness, the Colorado State buzzer loss to Maryland knocked out the final perfect bracket?
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
There was one left. And if Colorado State had won that game, they had the rest of the night correct. So they would have made it through the opening weekend perfect, which that's a pretty huge accomplishment.
Sure.
That's not easy to pull off. That's picking 48 of 48 games correctly. But the Colorado State Maryland loss left that person dead down. They were the last bracket to fall.
Wow. So no more perfect brackets. They are kaput.
I mean, I have one, but it's only on paper, so I can't share it and no one can see, and more importantly, no one can contest.
No one can confirm it.
Not true. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I totally picked them all by writing them down after the fact.
That's the best way to do it.
Let's get into some injury news here. We've got some positive injury news. Steph Curry back sooner than expected. I saw he's being labeled as questionable already. That's great news for the Golden State Warriors, who are in the thick of things and what promises to be a crazy finish in the Western Conference. You look at how tight everything is in the West. The Warriors have been playing some excellent basketball. They did drop a game the other day to, who was that? Atlanta, I believe.
Yeah.
That they dropped a game to. But Golden State's been playing great, and getting Steph back for this final push, they definitely want to make sure they don't drop into the play-in. And I think they may even have their sights set on hopefully jumping over the Grizz, maybe even my Lakers, and probably a long shot to get that far up, but they certainly want to stay out of the play-in. So this is great news for Golden State and great news for the league. Of course, the league is better when stars are out there and playing.
Yeah, 100%. It also, adds a lot of intrigue to that battle there. If you want to put the Grizzlies in it, that's fine. So Grizzlies, Warriors, Wolves, and Clippers for the 5 through 8 seeds. Grizzlies still obviously in the mix as high as number 2. They're only a couple games back from that. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And that when Curry got hurt, it looked bad.
It did.
That was just a really bad fall. Looked like this could be one that was going to, put him out for a little bit. But yeah, like you said, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Warriors Heat game in a little bit in the show. But he may be back tomorrow, which is, great. And that would be, really fun if he can play in that game. And if not, when you get an update like this, that does mean generally, if it's not Tuesday, it's probably coming very soon.
Yes.
Which is great.
Absolutely. And that Curry injury, that was one of those ones where more than what you saw, what you saw happen was rough, but it was the sound that you heard how hard he hit. Yeah. That was when I went, oh no. Oh, I mean, that was what really got the reaction. I mean, was hearing how hard he hit the ground. I believe the mics were right there, Yeah. Oh man. That was rough. So happy that he didn't sustain a serious injury.
Right. So not a big guy. So there's not a lot of padding for him.
Right.
I could probably hit that and bounce right back up because it probably wouldn't hurt that much. I've got a lot of padding, but Steph goes down. He's going to be down for a bit.
The crazy thing is that play, and Warriors fans are beside themselves. There was no foul called.
No.
On that play. That was shocking. And Warriors fans obviously very upset, and really fans in general should be, upset about that. There should have been a call there on that one. And a big miss there.
Yep. But he'll be back, so that's the good news.
And then for the Denver Nuggets, Nikola Jokic, the Nuggets got a big win yesterday over Houston, a red hot Rockets team, and the Nuggets without Jokic got a win over them. So that was a big, big win for them. But Nikola Jokic will be back this week. He's been dealing with ankle stuff. So that's good news as well. Again, these guys are starting to come back. How much of it, though, is they're really ready to come back versus we've got like a couple of weeks until we've got to be ready for the playoffs, so you better be back on the floor. Like such is the case with the Lakers with Rui Hachimura, who's admitted like, oh yeah, no, I'm not 100%, just we're running out of time here. Do you think that's at all a factor here with star level players like Jokic, like Curry?
Yeah, I think there's that. I think we're in a battle for seeding in the playoffs. You know, for the Nuggets, it's home court advantage, maybe even as high as the 2 seed. We talked about it with the Warriors. They're trying to stay on the plus side of the play-in tournament line. So yeah, and then you've got a handful of other guys. Like you said with the Lakers, they're in the mix for as high as the 2 seed, trying to battle for home court advantage. So 100%, I think some guys are playing where if this was December, they probably still sit out. Or if you're the Thunder or the Cavs or the Celtics and you're pretty locked in to your seed, you probably sit out. But, you know, as it is, you know, these guys are going to get out there and fight. I do think teams are more cautious than these guys are probably all very, very close to being, you know, as fine as anybody can be at the end of a long season. I don't think it's a case of anybody's out there like, yeah, you know, I really shouldn't be playing like Kevin McHale playing on a broken foot.
Sure.
Through an entire playoff run. Like, I don't think it's that. I think it's more of, yeah, these guys are close. Yeah, we could go another game or two and really be sure, but we need to get them back on the floor.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something where the urgency of the playoffs is a factor, and how quickly and really how tight the race is. If these teams were locked into their seeding, these guys would probably be taking a bit more of a rest. Speaking of which, though, locked into their seeding, the Phoenix Suns have a insane schedule to close out the end of the year. I mean, absolutely brutal. So they have fallen backwards into the 10 seed, but they're 6-4 in their last 10 at least. They've won 3 in a row, but Anthony Davis is back.
Yep.
And for the Dallas Mavericks, and the Mavs have a much easier schedule from here on out than the Suns do. So, Keith, does AD coming back, does that totally flip this, where now the Mavs jump back into the 10? Do the Suns stay there, even though they're playing? I mean, it is crazy when you look at who the Suns have. I'll pull up Tankathon in a minute. When you look at who the Suns have to play, it probably doesn't matter, really, because I don't think either team makes it out of the play-in the Western Conference. But who gets the 10 spot and who gets the, I don't know, embarrassment, I suppose, of not even making the play-in the West?
Yeah, it probably comes down to those last couple of games of this season when we get to that. So the way it works in the last 3 days of the season, everyone plays Friday, no one plays Saturday, and then everybody plays Sunday. And almost all of the games on Sunday are either at 1 p.m. Eastern for the East Coast teams, and then the West Coast teams all play at 3:30 p.m. So there's one obviously cross-conference matchup. I don't remember who that is, but the Suns play the Spurs on Friday in Phoenix. Dallas plays the Raptors on Friday, so that should be good news for Dallas. Probably good news for Phoenix too. And then on the Saturday, when we get to the Saturday game, and it's going to take a minute to load, because why wouldn't it? Because we're recording the show. Let's see. Dallas plays at the Grizzlies. That's a pretty tough.
Ooh, that could matter. And
then Phoenix plays at the Kings, which probably doesn't matter quite as much. The Kings will probably be the 9th seed in the play-in tournament, but still a couple tough challenges there. So they should both get wins on that Friday. So I'm going to say it comes down to that final day. I think that'll really give us a sense. Unless, as you have Tankathon pulled up, I mean, Phoenix still has to play the Thunder, the Celtics twice, the Rockets. Now, if you're the Suns, though, OKC's locked in, Boston's locked in, New York's pretty much locked in. So you may be in a spot where you may be getting the Thunder, the Celtics, the Knicks. Right, you may not get the real version.
Air quotes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, but then you look at Dallas, the 20th most difficult remaining schedule in the NBA. They've got Brooklyn twice. They have Toronto. They have Chicago. I can tell you, Chicago can't have a night. They have Orlando. Yeah. They have Atlanta. This is going to be interesting to see what happens. And again, in the end, it probably doesn't matter all that much because I don't think either team survives the play-in, but it's a race that we'll keep an eye on nonetheless. But Anthony Davis coming back, and I guess the big picture question is, should he? Reports out of Dallas were that there were some people in the Mavs organization trying to talk him out of coming back. Anthony Davis saying, oh, no, I'm not having that. I want to come back. I just hope AD, if he comes back, just don't get hurt. Don't get hurt. Don't do anything that would set back your offseason. It's going to be starting sooner rather than later for the Mavs, the offseason. So they need him healthy for next year, especially with Kyrie already out to start the season next season due to his ACL injury. So AD, be careful. Be careful if you're out there, man.
Yeah, if he feels anything in that adductor that he's already had hurt a couple times, I'd pull him right out and you're done. You're done. If he rolls an ankle, there's nothing you can do about that. That happens. It is what it is. But if there's anything that's related to the previous, I'd send him back out. But as far as Dallas goes, they certainly have a lot better of a chance to win with him than without him. Then, I mean, he was absolutely unbelievable in the first game he played for the Mavericks when he got hurt in his debut game there. So if he's anything near that level, I'd say Dallas has a pretty good chance of getting that 10 seed. I will say this, whoever wins out of that, if AD or KD both get into that second play-in game healthy, let's just say it goes to form as it stands out. It's like the Clippers hosting the Suns or the Mavericks in that second game. It does feel a little bit like, man, if one of those guys goes off, we might not have we might just lose because those guys are good enough to win a game almost by themselves. So that's what'll make it a lot of fun.
All right, well, let's go over to Sacramento. You mentioned the Kings are, not completely locked in, but they've got a cushion here in the 9th seed in the West. Looks like they're going to be getting Sabonis, their big man, back today. So, they're 3-7 in the last 10. I think more than the seeding aspect of this for the Kings, this is about getting back into rhythm, playing at your best, and then ideally, you survive the 9-10 matchup, and then hoping that you can win the your battle with whoever loses in the 7-8 matchup, and then obviously that would put you you're going home. The Thunder are going to send you home in the first round, but for a Sacramento Kings side that they don't want to miss the playoffs again, they don't want to go back into that. So I think at least getting to the first round of the playoffs is something that they definitely want to do, and this Sabonis coming back gives them a chance to try to get as close to their best basketball as possible for the postseason.
And I wouldn't rule it out again. I think this is a group that they've just got a lot of guys who can play. And if they get those guys back, they can definitely win that first one and then be a real challenge in that second one. This is not going to be an absolute walkover. It could be, but I don't envision that just because Sabonis, DeRozan, Levine, Monk, Keegan Murray, if he gets it going. I think for Sacramento too, you'd love to get into the playoffs just to see what does it look like. And it's very easy to say right now. I mean, they're 24 games behind the Thunder, 23 and a half. You're like, there's a mile, Grand Canyon size gap between the teams, but you just want to get into the playoffs. And what does it look like in the playoffs with a veteran team? What is it we need to get to that level? And that gives you some answers. Versus if you get knocked out in the play-in tournament, you're just kind of in a spot where then it becomes, all right, we think we know what we need to do. And is it just we need more time with this group together or whatever it is versus making real changes?
Sure. Yeah, there's information to be gained by making the first round. I think the Kings could survive the play-in. I just don't think they survive the Thunder in round one. That's not, but at least they would get a little bit of intel on their club and what it looks like. All right. Jimmy Butler telling lies, or is this the truth? He says the return to Miami is just another game. I don't know. I don't know Jimmy Butler personally. It's not like we go hang out on the weekends or anything like that. But from afar, Jimmy Butler takes I believe he's the kind of guy that would take things personally. I mean, this is the guy who's infamous for taking the third string guys in Minnesota and beating the starters because he took things a little bit personally. I don't buy that this is really just another game for Jimmy Butler when he takes on the Miami Heat.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. Then you had Draymond Green chiming in with, "I'm sure Andrew Wiggins wants to beat us too," and it's like, okay, dude, like, come on now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he does, but like, yeah, I'm guessing there's going to be a little bit more juice there. They thought the remainder of his comments were interesting too, where they asked him, how do you expect to be received, and he's like, I don't really know, and I have nothing but love for Miami.
Mm-hmm.
We did some really cool things, but we didn't really accomplish anything. We never won a title, didn't do anything. I think that's going a little too far. They made a couple finals, and I think that it should be we can't get so focused on you didn't win a title that we completely throw everything away.
Right.
Like, you made a couple finals runs. That was pretty impressive. So, but yeah, I think I'm gonna guess there'll be a little bit more juice, and I hope Steph plays, because I think that has a chance to be a really fun game. And man, the Heat, they get off the schneid over the weekend.
Andrew Wiggins,
finally, but yeah, they need to get things going again. And as we've covered already, the Warriors are scrapping for playoff position, so should be a fun game.
Yeah. Speaking of the Warriors and the Kings signed 14th players. Now, per league rules, they have to have that 14th player on their roster. So what does the situation look like, moving forward now with that?
Yeah, so both teams were pretty much out of days. So how it works is you can drop under 14 players for up to 14 days at a time, or 28 total days in the season. And that's how they protect against roster spots for guys. They don't want teams just using their two-way players,
right,
and basically saying, we're going to cover that way. So both teams are about out of days. The Warriors signed Kevin Knox for the rest of the year, so he's going to be with them for the rest of the season. And then the Kings signed two-way player Isaac Jones, a big man who's hasn't had a huge impact on the NBA level, but played pretty well in the G League, and can do some things as far as a defender, rebounder, rim protector. He's pretty solid around the basket area, kind of extending his range. We'll see where that goes. Promising young guy, and they filled it out with him. So two-way promotion there, and then a promotion from the G League, because the Warriors had already kind of done it with their two-way guys, with Quentin Post and Pat Spencer getting standard contracts after they made their big trade for Jimmy Butler and needed to fill a bunch of roster spots. So those situations are out. There's a handful of teams with open roster spots still. I would expect, as always, just about every team that's going to be in the playoffs fills out to 15 total spots, just because you don't want to be caught needy at a position, because you were, quite frankly, no other reason than being cheap and not wanting to pay. So I think everybody will fill those out. We'll be watching that over the next few weeks. Reminder, April 13th is the deadline, the final day of the regular season. That's the last day you can sign players. It's not already passed. People keep saying that to me on social media, that it's already passed. And yes,
it has not.
You can still convert your two-way guys or sign your two-way guys. You just can't replace them at this point. So there might be a portion of viewership still interested in that after some, let's call it, very poor aggregation was done over the weekend to Jovan Buha.
That was awful. In fact, I got a message. I got messages from a few people. I just woke up. I'm a night owl. I just woken up and I look at my phone and I'm like, what? And immediately, just because I've done this for long enough, I immediately went, that's not a Jovan type story. Yeah. Like, that was weird that he would be reported that. I'm like, normally that's the kind of thing that's going to come out from the team first or something like that. I'm like, that's weird. It sounded a little odd. And then I went and found the direct quote and I'm like, oh yeah, that's like somebody completely misinterpreted that.
Yeah.
And that was just, that was all kinds of wrong. But
yeah, if anybody hasn't seen it, what Jovan said is, if they want to convert Jordan Goodwin or Trey Jemison, it's probably Cam Reddish and maybe Alex Len who get waived. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, yeah,
and what got reported
right.
was the Lakers are waiving Alex Len and
right.
Cam Reddish. And that's not at all what he said. It was the same as when I said, the Sixers have a chance to look at a medical retirement for Joel Embiid, and immediately got aggregated as the Sixers are going to force Joel Embiid to medically retire. Like, it's just poor aggregation. We do. I mean, a lot of what we do is a form of aggregation. We take the news topics and then talk about them because it's somebody else's reporting generally. But like, we try to be extremely careful of, all right, what was actually said? What was the actual report here? And that was just, really, really bad. And I'm glad, somebody got to Jovan early enough that he was like, whoa.
Yeah, that was not what I said. Yeah, it was just bad aggregation there. But that kind of stuff does happen, and that's why it's always important to kind of like double check on stuff, especially with something like that where you're like, that doesn't seem right. And then you look at it and you go, oh, okay, that this makes sense now. So anyway, let's get to Clint Capella is going to be out until the postseason. The Hawks 3-game win streak in Atlanta, 7-3 in their last 10. I think they're trying to solidify the 7 seed versus the 8, which does matter. You'd have that the first play-in game would be at home, but Atlanta playing some good basketball right now, and Clint Capella has fallen into the backup big role behind Onyeka Okongwu, real nice performance in their last game. I believe that was the one against Golden State. The timing on a few of the blocks he had, I was like, wow, that looked really good. But the Hawks, hopefully they'll get Capella back just to have a full complement of players, but pretty clear there that the future is Onyeka Okongwu at the 5.
Yeah, they're like chips passing the night, right? We kind of said it last year. It felt like they probably should have gone to Okongwu more. It took a little while this year, but they finally did go to him. He is not starting just because Capella's hurt. He had taken that starting spot ahead of Capella getting hurt, as you said. So that's important to note. And we'll see. My guess is Clint Capella will be somewhere else next year. Probably won't be back with the Hawks. But yeah, Atlanta's been solid. It took them a while to find their footing after Jalen Johnson got hurt, and then they made the trade where they traded DeAndre Hunter, but pretty good balance. They've kind of found their 9-man rotation. They play those 9 guys, zero amounts. George Niang, it feels like at least every other game hits like 6 or 7 3-pointers. He's been playing really well. Dyson Daniels has been out of his mind defensively. Zachary Risachet has really come on strong.
Is he rookie of the year?
Play well, so. Yeah, that's a good question. Probably not. He's probably far enough behind. It might go to Stephon Castle now.
Yeah,
I think has played probably well enough to get it. I think Sarr's going to get some consideration too. He's played pretty well. The important thing is Risachet and Sarr, who were very like, all right, I guess they're the first and second picks,
right,
have really come on as the year has gone along and improved really month by month, to the point now where it feels like, okay, it's okay that this is where we landed. So yeah, rookie of the year is probably still somewhat open here with a few weeks to go.
Which it's not been one of those years where you just go, oh my God, this guy is a force of nature. How did I can't believe their whole franchise future is changed with the rival of this place. There's no Wemby. This was not that draft. Yeah. But good to see that some of the guys are starting, like you mentioned, Alex Sarr and now Risachet and some of these other guys are starting to really get their footing and show that, well, maybe you didn't get the franchise-altering star that you were hoping to get, that you'd be hoping to get if you get the number 1 overall pick. You still got a quality piece for the future.
Yeah, somewhere a Hawks fan's going to be like, we got the first pick in between Wemby and Cooper Flag.
Yep.
Like, really? Like, this is what happened? But that's what it is.
That's part of why rebuilding is so hard. There's so many fans and teams that like get that if the team is not the clear-cut, I see it all the time. If your team is not the clear-cut, dominant favorite to win a title, if anytime the team loses, it's blow it up. This team's not good enough. Blow it up, tank, rebuild, all this kind of stuff. And we look at like OKC and go, oh yeah, that's what rebuilding looks like. No, rebuilding is a gut-wrenching process that is not for the faint-hearted. And a lot of it is skill, of course. A lot of it is your decision-making as an organization, but a lot of it is luck too. You happen to get the number 1 pick in a year where there's not the number 1 superstar guy, and you could be stuck in a rebuild. Like now, I don't think the Hawks are necessarily in a rebuild here, but just saying that can be the difference. Like, hey, we happen to be bad and get some lottery luck in the year that Wemby was there, and there we go. Now our whole future has shifted, and we're off and running. It's hard to plan for that kind of stuff, and so that's why rebuilding. It's not. People tend to look at it as like a positive. Oh, it's good. We're going to get all these picks. We're going to have all this young talent. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a team on the rise.
This segment was sponsored by Matt Ishbia.
Oh no.
Because that's like kind of what he said though. But it is true. I mean, you like Oklahoma City too was in such a different spot where they basically, it's important to remember they didn't take like this team doesn't have much left. Like they took a bunch of good guys, traded them away, and landed like a mega haul of picks in every deal, and then every subsequent deal they did. And then Sam Presti was super aggressive with, oh, you need somebody to need a contract? Great, we'll take it. We need a pick. We'll take it. We need a pick. And just kept doing that until all of a sudden now it's like, here's 38 draft picks we have. And more importantly, what they got right was they hit on just about every draft pick they made.
Yeah.
They hit on some of the guys that they traded for and developed internally. And that's, how you get there. But then the flip side of that is you have the Charlotte Hornets who have been like nothing more than some playing appearances and I think one playoff appearance. And then it's been perpetually rebuilding. At least the Wizards had those couple years where they were pretty good with John Wall and Bradley Beal, and they were, okay playoff teams. Like the Hornets haven't even had that basically since they've been back being the Hornets. Yeah. And that's tough, man. That's what you're looking at sometimes. If you can't get it right, you're going to be sitting there for years and years and years banking on this.
Yeah, if you don't get the guy or you get a few shots at it, then you wind up 4 years, 5 years down the road going, all right, let's start it over again and let's see what we can do. And that's the way they go. And sometimes even when we think, oh, well, you just have to be bad in the year there's generational talent at the top. Sometimes even then, I mean, look, Portland thought they had the guy in Greg Oden. Yep. That didn't work out. You never know.
New Orleans was Zion. Right?
Yeah, like, New Orleans was Zion. And Zion, every time he steps on the floor, you're like, oh, that dude is the guy, right? Mm-hmm. But he's not on the floor all that often. Exactly. So again, it is not for the faint-hearted rebuilding, that's for sure. But that also does make Keith, the Matt Ishbia. Can I just, rather than take the Matt Ishbia stance, can I just have Matt Ishbia's money? Like that would, I would take that. But the flip side is you also can't just say, well, the draft is a crapshoot. Who knows what you're going to get? And we're just going to keep paying for something that we know doesn't work.
Yeah. There's a whole lot of middle ground in between never rebuild and let's rebuild eternally. That's exactly where 99% of the league lives, is in one side or the other of that.
Yep. All right, let's go here. Jalen Brunson out at least one more week. So the good news on this, though, like you already mentioned when we were talking about the matchups, when you talked about a matchup with the Knicks, you want to be playing your best basketball when you get to the postseason. You want to be in rhythm. That's for sure. But the Knicks don't have the added stress of we're gonna drop in the standings. That I just don't think that's gonna happen. I don't know who has the tiebreaker off the top of my head between the Knicks and the Pacers, but I don't think, even with the 4-game winning streak from Indiana, I don't think the Knicks are in that much trouble here. I mean, there's enough of a 3-game gap. They should be okay. It may be if the Pacers have the tiebreaker over the Knicks, maybe you start to look at it a little bit, but I don't think they need to be like rushing Brunson back or anything like that to avoid dropping to the 4 seed here.
I'm with you on that. They're certainly not catching the Celtics.
No.
So then it just becomes, we just got to play well enough to hold off the Pacers, who are playing pretty good after being pretty uneven for a little while. They're really starting to play well. But the Pacers are also trying to hold off the Bucks and kind of the Pistons a little bit. So they're trying to, really kind of put themselves in a spot to establish at 4. So it could get interesting. I always say at this time of year, let's get it down to 2. Once you're only 2 games back, that's when it gets really interesting there, because that's within a day you can be a game back and then anything can happen. So I'm gonna wait a little. I think New York's okay, but more importantly, even if you slipped to 4, you're not going anywhere in the playoffs, even if you are 3 without a healthy Jalen Brunson. Right. Certainly not if you're 4 without him. You got to have Jalen Brunson back to have a run. So I think if you're the Knicks, that's paramount over anything else.
Well, and looking at the East, right? Let's say you do, if you're the Knicks. Oh no, we dropped to 4. Okay, you get Milwaukee in round 1 as it currently stands. You'll get Milwaukee. Like, you would rather play the Pistons, I would think, than have to deal with Giannis. But it's not like the Pistons are a cakewalk. I mean, the Pistons have been playing good basketball. So, I mean, how much more difficult did you really make? You would still have home court in the first round, and then you would get the Cavs in the second round instead of the Celtics. I mean, either way, I think the Knicks are probably going home in round 2. So I don't know. Even like worst case scenario, the Pacers catch the Knicks. I don't think it changes all that much for New York. Again, I would rather see the Pistons than the Bucks just because the experience factor and all that kind of stuff. But I still would have the Knicks surviving round 1. and then going home in round 2. I don't think that changes, even if they drop from 3 to 4.
I'm completely with you on that. And at least they can lean on 2 years ago, they beat the Cavs in the playoffs.
Yeah.
At least you could kind of lean on, hey, we'll try to repeat that. Now it's a very, very different Cavs team than they were a couple years ago. It's quite frankly a very different Knicks team too.
Sure.
But yeah, it would be that's something. So, but yeah, I'm with you. I don't think it changes all that much. And again, none of it changes enough that you would push Jalen Brunson to play before he's 100% ready. Because again, you're not going anywhere without him. It doesn't. I think if you finished 3 but lost Jalen Brunson, they probably beat the Pistons. But I wouldn't even put that in pen without Brunson, because that would be a much tougher matchup than it needs to be.
All right, then jumping over to Memphis, Brandon Clark out for the Keith. I did not see this. I've been on dad duty. What happened with Brandon Clark? What did I miss?
He has a severely sprained, I think it was PCL in his knee. So it's just enough where they're like, he's just not coming back this season. And that's a blow. Now Memphis, if there's a spot where you can lose a guy, it's probably in their front court. They have really good front court depth. It more sucks for Brandon Clark, who worked so hard to get back from the torn Achilles.
Yeah.
Really had played pretty well. He is the one guy with the Grizzlies who combines both athleticism and kind of like a ruggedness factor for them. Like he kind of, to throw it back to their term, he's kind of grit and grind a little bit. He does a nice job working out of pick and roll with John Morant. He does a nice job defensively. So it's definitely a tough loss. They did get Santi Aldama back. So they'll move forward really with a 3 big rotation of Jackson, Edey, and Aldama. But it is a loss for them without Brandon Clark for sure.
All right, let's that definitely hurts the Grizz, but like you said, they do have some decent depth there. So hopefully they can get by without him. All right, let's jump over. Let's finish off with our NCAA Tournament Challenge update, and where we're at in all of that here. I'll throw it up there on the screen. Perfect. I see your name there, Keith.
Yeah, I did okay.
I have not checked to see where I'm at yet. I've been like, I don't want to see it. I don't know. But there you are. What happens if you win this damn thing?
We go to number 2. We go to the second place person. So I don't know. You just don't do the show, and I just talk all by myself for a whole show. And people are like, how would that be any different? So it was a, first of all, really fun weekend of hoops. Really good. It's getting the Derek Queen buzzer beater. Yeah, he probably traveled, but who cares? But I liked a lot of the draft guys really stepped up and looked pretty good in a lot of the games. Very few of the draft prospects kind of went out there and fizzled and were out without much say in the first or second round. So just really fun. But yeah, we got some of these people are going to have to let us know who they are, just in case we get there. So we can wait until we get past this coming weekend and into the Final Four and see where it is. But we got Gators at the top. We got a few Houston picks there, and then a bunch of people Duke. And then we got one guy who did really, really well, but he had Illinois. And they're out. So his pick is over and done with. So yeah, I did okay. I was pleased with my bracket here in the challenge. So it was a lot of fun, man. The NCAA tournament, just always a blast. Those first couple of days with all the games is just so much fun.
It absolutely is. I'm trying to scroll here now to see.
Trying to find you.
Where am I? I will admit, I did not actually I just hit random. I'm like, I was under the gun, and I'm like, you know what? Everybody always says that this could just be, you could randomize it and do it. And so I'm like, I'm just going to hit random and go with it for this and just see what happens. Apparently it did not work because I've still yet to find myself on here.
I can't find you either. I don't know. Maybe you're in there under like a weird name.
Oh, it could be.
Some of them, if people hide their names, I think it just says ESPN fan.
My account is all screwed up too, because I've got a different account for like my fantasy baseball. Anyway, I'm just going to say that this is me then.
There you go.
the 9 spot.
Sure.
That one's me. I'm not logged into that account right now. I'm going to say that's me.
I mean, we've got a lot of people still alive. Like if the Terry M, who picked Tennessee, if they make a run, he probably will win it
Yeah.
because remember, you get more points for wins now as it moves along. So if Tennessee wins, then he may be the guy who wins. I scroll down a little bit. I think there were a couple Auburn picks a little bit further down. So yeah, there's an Auburn there. So Jared's picks. So yeah, we get a lot of people still very heavily alive in this, which will be a lot of fun. But yeah, man, it's gonna be a lot of fun. This is where I'm gonna kind of say something that people probably won't love very much. Upsets are awesome unless you're trying to watch for draft purposes.
Oh, that drives me crazy.
Because then it's like, all right, the guy is out. So, but the good news is, my fans guide's all updated going into the Sweet 16. We still have like almost 60 draft prospects playing as well. So, which is awesome to see. A lot of those guys are on like Duke and Kentucky and Alabama and in those teams, but there's still quite a few guys. Cooper Flagg looked great. I said it on radio this morning. If you had any doubts that somebody else should come up and grab the number one pick, he hasn't removed all of them. You're like on an island and you're seeing something no one else is seeing. So either you're really smart or it's time to really rethink your stance, because he played great, and he played great. Especially over the weekend, he got hit in the face in the Baylor game very early on. At one point, it looked like he couldn't even see out of his right eye, and he just kept going, doing his thing. He's a special player, man. It's going to be a lot of fun to see where he lands.
Yeah, he's going to be fantastic.
And yes, he's coming out. He's not going to go back to Duke. Stop with that.
That would be insane. That would be insane.
It's not happening.
I was just like you said, you see NBA draft guys that get a little, and it's always like, oh, come on. But Cooper Flagg, VJ Edgecombe, I was like, oh, I know I want to see more Cooper Flagg, but can they not play each other yet? Can we keep them in there? But anyway, this was look, it's been a fun sports weekend. We've got a lot of stuff going on coming up over this next week. We've got Major League Baseball coming back. Of course, the NBA playoff races are all really starting to come into focus. So a lot of stuff going on. Make sure, everybody, you subscribe to the NBA Front Office Show on YouTube, as well as over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you again, everybody, for joining today's show. Till next time, see ya, and stay safe.